In a world where dreams often fade beneath the weight of hardship, there are rare moments that remind us of the unbreakable strength of the human spirit. Tonight, you're about to witness one of those moments. Welcome back to another story that will touch your heart and leave you believing in hope again. It all began on a warm evening in Manila, 2025. The stage lights of America's Got Talent, Manila edition glimmered brightly, reflecting off the faces of thousands of excited fans. The judges sat behind their golden desk, Simon Cowell, Sofia Vergara, Howie Mandel, and Lea Salonga, representing the pride of the Philippines. They had seen hundreds of contestants that day, but none of them were prepared for what was coming next. A small, frail man walked slowly onto the stage. His clothes were neatly ironed but old, and his hands trembled slightly as he held his worn-out cap. His shoes had been patched more than once, and his back bent slightly, a clear sign of the years of struggle behind him. The audience fell into an uneasy silence, unsure of what to expect. Simon leaned forward, curious as always, and asked gently, "Hello there. What's your name, sir?" The old man smiled, his voice soft but steady. "My name is Mang Lito, sir. I'm 72 years old. I'm a retired soldier, from the Philippine Army." The crowd clapped respectfully, recognizing the honor that came with his words. Lea Salonga smiled warmly and asked, "Thank you for your service, Mang Lito. What made you decide to come here today?" The old man looked down for a moment before replying, "For a long time, I've lived alone in a small house in Cavite. My wife passed away 10 years ago. My son, he left to find work abroad but never came back. I don't have much, but music kept me alive. I play the piano in a small chapel nearby. People say I have a gift, so I just wanted to share it before I go." His words pierced through the hearts of everyone in the audience. Simon's expression softened. There was something about this man, his humility, his sincerity, that made everyone pay attention. Lea asked, "So, what will you be performing for us tonight?" Mang Lito smiled faintly. "It's an original piece I wrote. It's called, Song for My Fallen Brothers. It's for all the soldiers who never made it home." As he sat down at the piano, the entire theater went silent. The stage lights dimmed, leaving only the old man and the piano in focus. His fingers hovered over the keys for a brief moment, shaky but purposeful, and then, he began to play. The first note was soft and fragile, like a whisper from the past. It carried with it a lifetime of pain, loss, and love. Every key he pressed told a story, of friendship, sacrifice, and longing. The melody rose and fell like the tides, echoing through the hall and straight into the hearts of those listening. In the middle of the piece, a single tear rolled down his cheek, but his fingers never stopped. The notes grew deeper, more powerful. The emotion in his music felt like the voice of every forgotten veteran who had ever served without recognition. People in the crowd began to cry quietly. Even Simon Cowell, known for his stoic demeanor, blinked rapidly as he fought back tears. Sofia covered her mouth in disbelief, whispering, "This is beautiful." As the final note lingered in the air, Mang Lito's hands fell gently to his lap. The silence that followed was sacred. No one dared to move or clap just yet. Then, all at once, the audience rose to their feet, giving him one of the longest standing ovations in AGT Manila history. Simon wiped his eyes and looked at him with deep respect. "Sir, that was one of the most emotional performances I've ever witnessed. You didn't just play the piano, you spoke through it. You told a story, without saying a single word, and we all felt it." Lea Salonga was visibly moved. "Mang Lito, that was pure soul. I could feel every note, every memory, every tear you've ever shed. You reminded us that music isn't about fame or money, it's about the heart." Then, before anyone else could say another word, Simon stood up, looked at the golden buzzer in front of him, and without hesitation, pressed it. The entire auditorium exploded in cheers and confetti as the golden rain poured down on the trembling old man at the piano. Mang Lito covered his face with his hands, sobbing uncontrollably. The audience chanted his name, "Mang Lito. Mang Lito," over and over. Lea ran to the stage and hugged him tightly. "You did it, Mang Lito," she whispered. "You made us all proud." Simon joined them on stage. He took Mang Lito's hand and said softly, "You just gave us one of those performances that remind us why we do this show. You are a real artist, a hero, and a beautiful soul." As the cameras zoomed in on his face, his tears sparkled beneath the golden confetti. In that moment, the world didn't see an old man or a veteran, they saw the embodiment of strength, faith, and love. When the episode aired, it instantly went viral. Millions of people from around the world shared his video, calling him the soul of the Philippines. Comments flooded in from soldiers, musicians, and ordinary people who said his music gave them hope again. One comment read, "I lost my father in the army, and listening to this made me feel like he was right beside me again. Thank you, Mang Lito." Another said, "I don't understand Tagalog, but I understand pain, and this man played it perfectly." Within a week, Mang Lito's name was trending across the internet. News stations covered his story, and even international veterans organizations reached out, offering to help rebuild his home. He was invited to perform at national events, and for the first time in decades, he felt seen and appreciated. But what touched everyone the most wasn't just his performance, it was his humility afterward. When interviewed by a local reporter, he said softly, "I didn't play to win. I just wanted people to remember that behind every old soldier, there's still music left to play." As the competition continued, Mang Lito became a fan favorite. Week after week, he performed songs that carried deep emotion, sometimes about his late wife, sometimes about his son who disappeared overseas, and sometimes about the quiet beauty of ordinary life. Each time, his music moved the judges and audience to tears. In the semifinals, he performed a haunting rendition of Bayan Ko, blending it with a piano solo that felt like a love letter to his country. Simon Cowell said afterward, "Mang Lito, I've been judging talent shows for years, but this is different. You're not just performing, you're healing people." When the grand finale arrived, everyone knew that whether he won or not, Mang Lito had already made history. But that night, he took the stage one last time, and what he did left everyone speechless once again. He began his final performance with a short speech. "This is for all those who served, for all those who lost someone they love, and for everyone who still believes that even in darkness, music can bring light." The piano began softly, almost like a lullaby. Then, with every chord, it grew into something larger, something transcendent. Behind him, a screen showed pictures of soldiers smiling, children waving flags, and the words, "Thank you, veterans." Halfway through, a recording of his wife's voice played faintly in the background, a piece taken from an old voicemail. "Play your music, Lito. That's where your heart lives." The audience gasped. Tears streamed down their faces. Simon closed his eyes, visibly overcome. The other judges held hands. By the end, the entire crowd was standing, waving small Philippine flags and cheering his name again. When the results were announced, everyone held their breath. The host said, "The winner of AGT Manila 2025 is," and after a long pause, "Mang Lito." The crowd erupted in cheers. Confetti fell once more, and Mang Lito stood frozen in disbelief. He covered his face, crying harder than ever before. The judges ran to hug him, lifting him off the ground as the audience chanted louder. Simon whispered in his ear, "You deserve this more than anyone." In his winner's speech, Mang Lito said something that made millions cry again. "All my life, I thought I was forgotten. I thought my story didn't matter. But tonight, you showed me that every note, every tear, and every battle was worth it. I dedicate this victory to every Filipino veteran, to my wife in heaven, and to everyone who still believes in kindness." The next day, news outlets across the world replayed his story. Social media overflowed with messages of love. Celebrities tweeted about him, calling him a living legend. One post from Simon Cowell himself read, "Mang Lito reminded me why I love music. It's not about fame, it's about truth." Soon after his win, the AGT production team arranged a special project to rebuild his home in Cavite. When they arrived with cameras, they found him sitting outside under a mango tree, playing his old piano. When asked what he was playing, he smiled and said, "Just a new song, for tomorrow." He later revealed that he planned to use his prize money to start a small foundation for struggling musicians and war veterans, providing free instruments and lessons to children who couldn't afford them. "Music saved me," he said. "Maybe it can save them too." Months later, he was invited to perform in Los Angeles for the global AGT showcase. It was his first time leaving the country. When he stepped on that international stage, thousands of people stood and cheered before he even played a single note. This time, he performed a piano version of "Imagine" by John Lennon, dedicated to the dream of peace. The audience swayed, many holding up small Philippine flags. When he finished, the entire theater glowed with phone lights, a sea of stars for a man who once lived in darkness. After the show, Simon met him backstage. "You know, Lito," he said softly, "people think talent shows are about finding stars. But tonight, we found a soul." Mang Lito smiled humbly. "I'm just an old man with a piano, sir." Simon shook his head. "No, you're proof that music never gets old, and neither does hope." In the months that followed, his foundation grew rapidly. Dozens of young Filipinos began learning piano under his guidance. Some of them were children of soldiers, others orphans from the street. He treated each of them like his own family. Every morning, he would open the small gate of his house, greet the children with a smile, and say, "Come in, my little maestros. Let's make the world sing again." One afternoon, a local journalist visited and asked, "Mang Lito, after all the fame and success, what matters most to you now?" He smiled and replied, "The applause fades. The trophies gather dust, but the sound of a child learning their first song, that's forever." Years later, when he turned 75, AGT Manila aired a tribute special for him. They showed clips of his first audition, the golden buzzer moment, and the tears that followed. Simon Cowell appeared in a recorded message, saying, "There are contestants you remember for a season, and then there's Mang Lito, who you remember for a lifetime." The camera then cut to Mang Lito, sitting quietly at his piano. His hair had turned completely white, but his fingers still danced gracefully over the keys. He smiled at the camera and said, "Thank you for letting me share my song. I may not be young anymore, but as long as I can play, I'll keep giving hope." The video went viral again, reaching millions around the world. People called him the Golden Veteran and the piano hero of the Philippines. One day, a letter arrived at his home. It was from his long-lost son. It read, "Dad, I saw your video online. I'm sorry for everything. You made me proud. I'm coming home." When they finally reunited at the airport, it was an emotional moment that no one could forget. His son knelt down, hugged him tightly, and said, "You taught me what real courage looks like." With tears in his eyes, Mang Lito whispered, "You're my greatest victory, son." From that day forward, they worked together at the foundation, teaching children not just music, but compassion, resilience, and faith. The old piano that once carried sorrow now filled the air with laughter and hope. And so, the story of a poor Filipino veteran who once thought his life had no purpose became an anthem of second chances. He showed the world that no matter how many years have passed or how deep the scars, the heart can still sing. Because sometimes, the greatest performances don't happen under bright lights. They happen quietly, in the souls of those who refuse to give up. And that's exactly what Mang Lito did. He didn't just win a golden buzzer, he won the hearts of millions. He didn't just play music, he became music. His piano wasn't just an instrument. It was his voice, his memory, his redemption. And every time those keys touched his fingers, the world listened, not to an old man, but to the sound of pure, timeless love. As the final credits rolled on his AGT journey, the audience heard his words one last time, recorded in a backstage interview that was never aired until now. He said quietly, "When life gets hard, don't stop playing. Because every broken note can still become a beautiful song." And with that, Mang Lito's story became a legend, a story not just of talent, but of faith, courage, and the undying melody of the human heart.